Hey everyone, welcome back to West Coast Mopars. Today this is a 59 Dodge Custom Royal. It's a four-door sedan. It doesn't belong to me, it actually belongs to a young guy. You guys watched another video I did. 62 on a 62 Plymouth Belvedere, that gray car, the four-door with the poly. That was also his car. So he's had this car dropped off, basically wants me to go through the whole thing. Brakes, ignition, make it safe, you know, same stuff we normally do, but this time I won't be keeping it. But yeah, pretty neat car to save and put back on the road. I don't know the story. As far as I know, he bought it from an old guy up in Campbell River. I don't know how long the car had been sitting before he bought it, but it's definitely had some interesting work done to it, I'd say. You know, just somebody trying to keep it on the road, I guess, or maybe it was a project. Yeah, so it's fairly solid. You do not see these very often. There's another one in Victoria, but that's actually a Regent. So it's a 59 Dodge. It's got the Dodge nose, but it's a Plymouth body, so it's got the sort of the shorter fins. These got the Dodge ones, which go just like my 57. They start way back here and they go all the way up through the door. I quite like the Dodge ones. Yeah, Custom Royal, so it's got all the trim. You know, it's got that trim down the middle of the body there. It's got a bunch of Bondo and stuff in the trunk. I got the trunk open earlier. There's nothing in there. He was all excited. He'd never been in there, and he thought maybe it's got a bunch of goodies, but I did get in, and there's nothing. Looks like this is maybe missing a piece. I wonder if there should be 5. There is what looks like another screw hole there. Pretty bad rust up underneath the chrome here. That's not very good. I'm not even going to touch that. It's got these 1-year only tail lights with the reverse light. They got these funny chrome surrounds here. You just can see the outside of the light from the side. Looks like it's actually the same bumper, or very similar to my 57. Maybe a little pointier, if anything. These caps are... yeah, it's got the Lancer guy on the trunk, because I guess it's a Custom Royal. It's got dual antennas. Oh yeah, see, there's supposed to be 5. The other side's just missing one. Sorry for the noises over there. I guess the neighbor's drilling, using an impact drill. Interior, it looks like it's got original door panels. Probably, oh yeah, original seats. Actually not that bad. The rear seat looks pretty good. I don't know if that headliner's original, but it's definitely up there. It says 43,664, but I'm gonna guess from the, you know, the typical brake pedal wear and just the condition of the car, it's probably 143. It's a push button, so it's a torque flight push button because it's got drive 2 and 1. If it was a power flight, it would be drive and 1. So it's got 3-speed torque flight. Here's the remote mirror controls down here. Looks like the headlight switch, you just turn it. That puts the lights on. I don't know if the wipers work or not. I'm not gonna go there. It's got push buttons for the heater controls. Here's the same ashtrays, the same as my 57, except this one doesn't say Dodge on it like mine. Oh my, 59 Dodge and the glove box light works. That's pretty incredible. Oh, and the light stays on. That's not a good thing. Yeah, pretty cool. Power brakes, probably power steering. Got this neat horn button. It's got the same mirror as mine, comes off the dash. It's pretty neat. It's pretty similar. It actually looks like probably the gauge cluster is the same as my 57, where the bars go across instead of having a needle. But the rear door panels, they look about the same. Pretty good shape. Got carpet. Yeah, it's not a bad car. You come around the front here. It's got these guys on the fenders, the Knight. He's actually got the Knight all over it. got it on that above Dodge there on the front. 59s had these huge eyebrows. They're very unique looking. And being that it's a custom Royal, it's got a big block. Not a poly, not a 325. So this is either, well, I looked it up earlier. I thought it was either a 361 or a 350. Chrysler's first big block was a 350. However, it looks like in 59, if you bought a custom Royal, you got a 361 as the standard engine. But yeah, power steering. It's got the vacuum booster with the extra there, same as my 57. Now somebody's gone and put electronic ignition in this. They've got a dual ballast resistor that's going to be a 5-pin module, guaranteed. Now, unless they put a 4-pin in with a dual ballast, then it's not going to work properly. Yeah, looks pretty good. Looks like it's just probably due for some maintenance, I'd say. But now I did change the battery. His battery was dead. Pretty sure this thing runs. Oh yeah, runs pretty good. That's good. It reads that it's got oil pressure. I didn't even notice if that was stuck there, if the gauge moves. See if the lights work. Oh, got no lights. Well, it looks like I got tail lights though. That thing's pretty noisy though. It's got some glass backs or something on it. Alright, well I just drove it in here. It does run okay, but maybe I see what he means. I don't know. It did have trouble starting, but I don't think it was spark. It actually seemed like the starter was going bad, because it would crank slowly and then it had a little bit of trouble starting. But regardless, there is a pretty good mess of wiring. Maybe somebody was having issues with it running and they thought electronic ignition was the answer. I've seen tons of stuff happen over the years where you buy a car and you can tell they just threw money at it and they still couldn't figure out the issue. And I try not to do that. I try not to, you think it's got this, so you just spend a bunch of money and put electronic ignition in it. Or you think it needs brakes and you spend all this money on wheel cylinders, changing all the brakes, and then you find out the master cylinder was bad. Like, I've seen that a lot where guys will just sort of dump money into something. I don't know if this is the case. Okay, first glance underneath. Looks pretty solid actually. Now I'm not sure about the steering. It felt okay, but I never know. Like, it doesn't feel too bad, although the idler arm is moving quite a bit when I shake on it there. So maybe I'll look for an idler arm for him. It does look pretty worn out. Pitman arm, hard to say. Oh, look at this on the exhaust. They cut the crossover pipe and they just booger welded it all together on the end there. And they obviously put dual exhaust in. You never know what you're going to see on these things. The starter is old. That's an old guy, so hopefully, I don't know. I'll have to take a look. I don't think that the other, the later starters will work. They might. We'll have to take a look. The oil pan is leaking pretty good. There's just grunge everywhere, so we'll probably do the transmission. They don't have filters in these. They've just got a screen in the push-button transmissions. This parking brake is working fine. I know that because I was using it to slow the car down to get in here. The exhaust, yeah, it's just red glass packs, extremely loud. I think he wants quieter mufflers on it. I'll have to talk to him, but I've had pretty good luck ordering just some cheapies on Rock Auto, or just some walkers are nice. Okay, there's definitely the brakes are leaking back here. So they got something super goofy going on. They've got a new hard line coming to the rear, so that's nice. But then they've got a new rubber line to a T What a goofy setup. A new rubber line to a T. One side of the T is plugged off. Then they've got a tiny hard line going into the actual T. That's the vent on the rear here. And then that runs, they've got, you know, the rears are fed from there. The shocks look like they've been changed. Oh, that's the other thing. It's got an electric fuel pump. So he wants the regular sending unit still. Oh yeah, I see. Okay, they got a electric fuel pump, and then they got a big filter here. And then, yeah, so he just wants the regular fuel pump put back in, which I don't see that being a problem. Oh, and these are air shocks, because look at the rear springs. Oh my God, look at these rear springs. I just noticed these. This one's broken. Okay, there's his issue. The car sags really bad in the back, and we weren't sure why. It's because I'm getting brake fluid dripping on me here. It's just dripping from there. But he's got the bottom spring is broken. It's just hanging in here, just barely hanging on. And then, oh, these things are just clapped right out. I'm going to have to talk to him about different rear springs. We might have to change them, maybe find something else with some half-decent rear springs and change them out, but didn't really want to do that. But these things are done. These are completely folded the other way. So somebody's put air shocks in it to try and alleviate that. But this side, look at those. I don't know how well you can see them. They're just completely twisted up there. But on to the good. The frame is super solid. The floors actually look really nice. Everything I've ever, aside from that blue and white car there, all the floors in all these old cars that I've had have just been terrible. Somebody's put a GM one-wire alternator in here, and it is not charging the battery. So that's something to think about. This is kind of goofy, eh? Look at this. They put an upper rad hose over top of the heater hose, I guess to shield it from the alternator. I don't know. Weird stuff. But plugs, wires, this is a Carter 2-barrel, so I got a carb kit. So I'm just going to start now. I'm going to strip out all this stuff here. This is just a mess. It's not like it's, you know, it's not good. It's not bad, but it's like nobody tidied this up. So I'm just going to start by stripping this stuff out of here. He's not going to use it. I'll pull the distributor out. And we'll just see what we got for distributors. I've got to get the master cylinder off. There's a bunch of stuff to do. And he's going to, he wasn't sure about the brakes. He said, oh, do you want to just replace it with a single pot? But no, we're gonna change it to a dual. So any drum brake car from the 60s, any C-body, Monaco, Fury, you know, full-size cars, that master cylinder you can put a dual on. It'll bolt right in place. The only thing that you have to add is a distribution block, because right now it'll just be a T going to the front and rears, but you just add a distribution block for fronts separating the rears, and I do have a bunch of those too. And then when you're setting your distributor in, the rotor was pointing at the carb, and you know the vacuum canister always points sort of towards the driver's side. You don't have to, but you get the most movement out of it when you got to set your timing. So you just sort of wiggle it down into place, and you got to make sure it seats. Often, if you don't seat it, often it's a pain, like it's being right now. There, it just seated, and that's locked into place. That's good. That's all we need to do for now. I don't need to worry about the timing, because we'll end up finding top dead center later and doing the timing again. But that's all there is. You put your hold down back on. Alright, I've got the carb apart. I'm not going to bother. I won't show, you know, the carb rebuild. It's just time consuming. You basically just want to pull everything out. Try and keep it, you know, I sort of make little piles. Like I've got linkages from the top end. The floats are here. This is the top of the carb flipped over. Basically, I'll spray this down with brake clean, and I've just got a little wire brush here, so I'll just spray it down and just try and clean it up. Don't want to put it back dirty. But yeah, in here, look at that. I can't believe this thing was even running. So there's just a pile of goop and mud, and it's just old. Look at that, old gas. I don't know if you can see that on the end of the screwdriver there, where I've sort of just scraped it up off the bottom. It is just full of sludge. So these jets are guaranteed having trouble. So what I'll do is I'm going to scrape it all out of there. I'll spray it down with some brake clean. Brake clean's great. You can use carb cleaner, but brake clean I just find I use it more for everything else anyways. So, but it breaks down. It'll break down all that gunk, and then you can just sort of wipe it out of there. Spray brake clean through all the little holes in the carb, and then spray them with compressed air. And that brake clean will break down anything that's in there, and then the air will spray it out. So, okay, carb, I took the whole thing apart, cleaned everything, new gaskets underneath. You can see the new black one in there between the base and the top. I reset the idle mixture screws. You basically just bottom them out, and then I usually back them out 2 turns, and that'll be enough to get the car running, and then you can go from there. You don't have to use a vacuum gauge, but I find it easier, because common misconception is that those screws have to be out exactly the same amount of turns. They don't. You don't want one bottomed out and one all the way open, but you know, you can do one at 2 and the other one at 2 1/4, whatever you get the best vacuum out of. So this gasket is the one that sits here, and then top plate goes on, put all the screws back in. Alright, so I just removed the electric fuel pump and put in a mechanical, and I just cranked on it for a couple seconds, and you can see the fuel filter I put in is already filling up with fuel. Some guys don't like those plastic ones. There's a fear that they're going to melt. Well, don't lay it on the manifold or lay it on the valve cover or the intake. Keep it somewhere where it's got airflow and it will never melt. I've never had one melt. I mean, if you're doing something where it's, you're laying it somewhere where it's going to melt, then yeah, it's going to melt. But I like them because you can actually see if your fuel pump is pumping fuel. Those silver ones, it's a guessing game. And you also don't know when they're dirty. So I changed the fuel line around a bit, put the filter in, put a pump in, and now the ignition is points. I've just put the old cap and rotor back on. I did order those parts, but I don't have them right now. So I just put the fuel line back together. Underneath, I just had to run some rubber hose to make up the difference where the mechanical pump was. And otherwise, oh yeah, I put my test light on these wires. So this blue wire was 12 volt switched. So you turn the key on, you get power to this blue wire. Basically this coil and these points need a ballast resistor. So that's what I put this in here for. So 12 volt switch to the ballast resistor. Coming off the ballast resistor is the wire that goes to the positive side of the coil. Pretty simple systems, pretty hard to screw up. Like I said earlier, negative side of the coil goes to the distributor. So we'll just turn the key. We'll see if it starts. I did not set the timing. I just stuck the distributor back in and I kind of just guessed. So it probably won't start, but we'll see. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. The timing's probably a little retarded, but it fired right up. Here, let's just give it a little bit more timing. Oh, I killed it. But that is a good sign. So I'll just have to give it some more timing and play around with the carb a bit. I'm going to change this alternator form. This is a GM one wire, I believe. I'm not super into these. People are funny with these things. I don't know. What I've heard guys say is, oh, it's nice because the regulator's built in and then you don't have to deal with the regulator if it dies. Yeah, but if the regulator dies, then you have to change the whole alternator. Why not just change the regulator? Anyways, I don't know. But it's goofy. I don't love how it's wired. These are the wires here. They just run back. Everything looks hokey. So we're going to take this out. The other thing is the belt is extremely tight trying to get off there. And it was tension. It was all the way, like you can't move it around, because this manifold, this is actually a super unique exhaust manifold. This engine is a B engine, so 361, 383, 400, and also 350s, but you don't see them very often. This exhaust manifold has the bracket built in for the generator. This would have had a generator, so pretty unique manifold. But anyways, somebody's sort of grafted on this alternator and made it work. I'm also going to get rid of this goofy thing. They've put a fuel radiator hose, a flex hose, over the heater hose. I'm assuming to try and keep the heat off of the alternator. My thoughts are, like, I don't know. We'll sort this out. This is goofy. It looks ridiculous. Like you pop the hood and it's, anyways. So we'll get that out of there. So I got the front drum off here. I figured I'd show you guys what I was talking about with those dual wheel cylinders. So this is what Dodge, Chrysler, this is what they did in the late 50s. And, well, not even, I mean, my 49 Fargo had this same setup. But, so this was just what they did. They sort of got rid of this dual wheel cylinders. Must have been early 60s, because that 64 Chrysler doesn't have this. So the drum we will either clean up, we'll see how bad the grooves are in it. I try not to turn them unless they really need it. Like, if it's full of grooves, we'll turn it, because all those grooves are going to do is wreck your new shoes. But if it's fairly flat and it can clean up with a wire wheel, then we're not taking a bunch of material off of a drum that, you know, actually this one looks pretty good, but sometimes they're really thin and there's nothing much left to take off. So while we're in here, I'll check out his ball joints and stuff, and we'll sort of shake everything around and see what clunks. But these are those dual wheel cylinders. So the fluid comes in the top one from the brake hose, and then it transfers down to the bottom one. And all they do is one pushes one way and one pushes the other way. So yeah, I just thought I'd show you guys these if you haven't seen them. They're kind of a different setup. Okay, I'm on the driver's side here. I got the brake parts. All the parts just came in yesterday. So I'm on the driver's side. I forgot. I did these years ago when I bought this blue and white one here. I did the front brakes, and then I quickly changed to disc brakes, and I forgot how awful this is to do these. So terrible design by Chrysler is, well, two wheel cylinders is, you know, kind of annoying, but you cannot get them out without removing this plate, and to do that you've got to pull all 4 bolts. It's so stupid, because what they've done is this wheel cylinder here, it won't come out because it's the way the backing plate tapers, it sort of holds it in. And then it actually runs up behind. There's actually these 2 plates here, right? There's 2 of them. So it runs behind these plates. Okay, I'm all done the driver's side. I'm onto the passenger side. I thought I'd show you guys the goofy setup I was talking about with these wheel cylinders. So I've got this plate off. This plate here, it's got like a gap between it. And that's where the shoes slide into. And they've got the adjusters. These are the adjusters here. These actually poke through these holes. These little sort of wings here, they move in and out when you turn these with it's a 7/16 socket. So when you turn them, these move in and out, and what that does is makes the shoe move in and out. That's how you adjust them. So that's actually kind of nice. You don't have to use the you know, the dial down at the bottom that clicks and jams. But on the other side of things, this part, so the wheel cylinders, here, I took this one out already. So these sit basically in this hole here. But see how the wheel cylinder's got like a backing to it? That actually sits like, well, here, it's going to fall apart on me here, but it slides behind this plate. So the only way to take the wheel cylinder out is to remove the plate. But to remove the plate, you've got to, it actually separates. Oh, there, it just fell out. When you take this off, that comes right off the spindle, and your ball joints and everything hang from it. So I can see why they got rid of this design. It's horrible. You go change the brakes. It would have made all the difference if they had just figured out how to put 2 mounting bolts. See, there's only one threaded hole on the end here. There's nothing else. So there's actually only one mounting bolt for this. But if they had found a way to not have to overlap it with this flange behind that plate, then a guy could just go and change the wheel cylinders as needed and not have to disassemble the entire backing plate. So that's what I was talking about earlier, when it's just a poor design, in my opinion. Okay, so I just got the rear passenger drum off, and it came off just as easy with the hub puller, no problems, but all this stuff fell out, and I thought at first, oh, it must be a bunch of dirt or something, but no, this is, that's the remnants of his brake shoes. So look at these shoes. There's the metal lining. There's no shoe lining left on here, and it's funny. It's actually jammed underneath his shoe, like the metal part. Somehow it broke and jammed under there. This side's exactly the same. Nothing left. It's just the thin metal lining. So luckily, I do have. Luckily for him, I do have some shoes in the back. They're actually the shoes that were in my blue and white 57. Alright, so I called the spring shop in Nanaimo. They're called Hub City Springs. They said estimated, I gave them the measurement from the end of the spring here to this end, and they estimated 400 to 450 per side. Now it could be higher, probably will be higher, but it's a good guess. So he's probably about $1,000 for the springs, plus tax, and then plus U-bolts. So I just cut them with the grinder. If you guys do it, be careful when you do it. You can either, if you cut too far, you'll cut into the rear end. But it's pretty, you just cut a little bit and you hear a pop. It'll be a very obvious pop. So you got to cut the U-bolts off. Don't forget to remove the shock, right? And here's this stud that sticks out here. This is for the shock. So this one was a 3/4 inch. So remove the shock, the nut, and pull that off. And then you just bang the shock plate, bang it out of there. And this is just sitting there. It's actually probably hanging there right now because I've got a jack stand underneath the end of the axle shaft, because you don't want the rear end to fall with the spring when you take it out. So next, I will remove the nuts up. Like, if you look behind the shackle, oh, this one's pins. Oh, that sucks. Normally the newer cars, those are bolts they go through. So I'll have to figure that out. Either I pull that nut off the side, or maybe there's nuts on the front of it. Nope, they're just pins. So I'll have to cut those or figure something out. And then the other side, well, here I was thinking it was going to be bolts. Now I'm realizing it's probably pins. Yeah, it is. So I'll have to figure that out. I may have to cut the pins and then put some bolts back through later. But anyways, I got to get these leaf spring out. This leaf spring out, the other side out, and we'll get new ones ordered up. Okay, spring is out. So there's the one shackle. I didn't end up cutting those pins. I did it in a way that I could leave them in place and just have to put a bolt. I had to cut this side. I cut this bolt, so I'll have to get a new bolt for there, but that's easy enough. And this side uses a shackle, which is right here. So this goes, one of these bolts goes through the leaf spring, the other one goes through the rubber bushing up there. So I was able to get those apart. So here's the leaf spring, and this side I was able to keep pretty nice. The other side still got the bolt in it. I gotta drive it out with a drift. And there you can see them better here. See that one's cracked, and the top one's cracked. I mean, now that I've cut the U-bolts, they're a little less warped than they were, but they were really bad. One of these, the leaf here, it's just up on the hoist there. It totally broke out. Oh yeah, I can see it. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's split all the way down. So yeah, they had definitely had to come out. And I still got to get the other side out, but what I'm going to do is take this one in, get them to make up a pair, and then I'll do them side by side, rather than, because the car's up on the hoist, so rather than take both sides apart and the whole thing's teetering around up here, I may as well just do one side, put it back together, then proceed to the other side, and then, not have the car sitting on jack stands on, it's a little, I wouldn't say it's sketchy, but if I do both sides, it'll definitely be sketchy. Okay, I got the springs back from Hub City. So, pair of brand new leaf springs and U-bolts. They look great to me. The U-bolts are made there. They just have a bender. They bend them around any size you need. Round tops, square tops, whatever size. These are for a 3-inch tube, 8 3/4. And then these are about 7 or 8 inches long, I think, from the top here, which is fine. I can just cut off whatever I don't use or whatever. But really good quality. And these leaf springs, they were made there, so they didn't just buy each spring and put them together. They actually have a forge, and they roll the ends themselves. So this end that's rolled, they do that themselves. You know, they buy spring steel and then they forge it to the shapes they need. And the guy was explaining a lot of spring shops, and he didn't, you know, he wasn't trying to say, oh, other spring shops are doing it wrong. He was just saying a lot of spring shops will buy like the first spring and the second, the third, fourth, fifth, but they're all already pre-bent, and then they come to them and then they just put them together. But often you end up with like creaking and weird spring tensions. These guys actually form each spring in their forge to the exact same shape, and then that way they're like a match set. So I thought that was pretty neat. Apparently they're the last spring shop on Vancouver Island that actually forges their own springs. All in, brand new springs. That included front bushings. I didn't bother with the rear bushings because the ones in those shackles actually came out. They're actually in really nice shape. So just the front bushings, and then 4 U-bolts. It came to $1,200 even. So might sound expensive to some of you guys, but you know, for basically custom made springs for a 59 Dodge, I thought that was actually a pretty reasonable price. So it only took 3-4 days, basically 3.5 days. That's pretty good. Alright, so I got one side back in. Pretty straightforward, it's not much to really show. I started with this front bolt. I went down to Lordco and got some longer bolts. I did ask for grade 5. The guy said use grade 5 because grade 8 has a great grade 8 bolts are able to stretch. Like say this is a grade 8 bolt. You can stretch them without them breaking, but to actually to shear them off, like if they're going this way, the weight pushing down on them, apparently they're terrible. So grade 5 has a better chance of surviving with the weight going down. So I asked for grade 5. I think those are grade 5. We'll see. But I'm sure it'll be fine. You know, I just tell the kid not to thrash on it. But so those bolts are in. I put nylocks on the other side just so they don't ever back out. I don't think they will anyways. But and then I reused his shackles because they were actually in pretty good shape, the bushings and everything. And then here, the hardest part was actually getting the rear end, like the hole in the perch there, to line up with the little nub on the leaf spring. So I sort of had to push it back and forth with a 2x4 behind the backing plate against the leaf. But there's the new U-bolts, and underneath here it's all tightened down. And I just got to get the shock back on, the shock mount right there, that stud there. And then this side is done. Well, aside from like checking the torque on the U-bolts, but I'll do that later. I'll get the other side done. I might have to loosen these off actually to get the other side to clamp down. But yeah, I figure I can put the brakes back together on this side, get the wheel back on, then I will move to the other side and do that leaf spring. Alright, well there it is back on its own weight. Got the drum back on, and look at the difference. I should get the tape measure out here. From the flat part of the hoist, we're 23 inches. If I go to the other side, but this side, just over 18. So we gained like 5 inches just putting some new leaves in. Keep in mind they will settle. They're not going to stay, you know, jacked up in the rear, but honestly, I don't even think it looks that jacked up. It just looks normal. It's funny, actually, if I stand back here, you guys should probably see it there. I don't know if you can see, if you look at the hoist, how level the hoist is. This thing's on a huge slope to the right. So I just got to get that other leaf spring swapped out, and it'll look pretty good, I think. Alright, so we got both leaf springs in. Both brakes are done. I started running brake lines. and hopefully you can see in here. I should go get the light, but I started running the hard lines up. I did reuse one of the rear lines, like they had a coupler in it, and I just reused what they had. I think you can kind of see it right there. There's my new line, the brass fitting coming this way. They had a coupler, you know, it's already made. It's not rusty. Thought I'd save them a couple bucks bending a new line. I don't love couplers, but it's already in there, whatever. Up front, I've got, there's the driver's side line made up. Here's the one that runs to the passenger side. I just sort of stuck them in place. I'm still going to strap them down, but, you know, put them in the little clips and stuff. But hoses are in, front brake, wheel cylinders, everything's in. I'm just changing the oil. I've got the oil filter out. I guess it would help if I had the light here. Oil filter's out. I just drained the oil. It is very, very black, and it was way over full. So, good thing to do it. The oil filter that came out, I was like seeing the old filters on the cars, like when they haven't been changed in years and years. It's upside down. I don't want to tip it over, but it'll leak. But it says Auto Sense. I don't know what that is. Oh, it's a Fram, an old Fram Auto Sense oil filter. Who knows how old that is, when it was put in. But I've just got a Wix filter here to go back in. Okay, now if you guys have never done a pinion seal, they're pretty easy. I always like to start off with like a sort of a flat scraper like this, sort of a little Bondo flap, and just scrape off all the gunk that's just built up. There's all kinds of oil and junk that's hardened over the years with the dirt. Just try and scrape it up so that it's a little cleaner of a process. And then these are 7/16 bolts. So you want to remove these bolts, and they're pretty hard to get a socket on just because they're so tight to the strap. So these are for the U-joint. These are the U-joint straps. There's two on the top, two on the bottom. Right, obviously there's two straps. Here's one break. Okay, so next thing, you just want to get a socket with the impact. There's a nut right here. I think it's usually 1 1/16. I can't really remember, but we'll see what we can find. Yeah, 1 1/8. So we'll get the impact on there. Okay, sometimes you have to hammer that off, and sometimes it just pulls off like that. And so you set that aside. I'm going to clean that up later. You want it nice and clean when you put it back in, because what you don't want is for this this edge right here to be all grooved up and dirty. You want to just clean it up, because that'll wreck your new seal. If this has huge grooves in it, which this one does, perfect. This will ruin the new seal. And the seal, it goes all the way, it's actually bigger, it goes over this front flange, so you don't have to try and bang the inside out. If you can just get like a thin screwdriver or a drift between the edge of the seal and the actual pumpkin, then that's how you can knock that out easily. And I'm okay if it, all that gear oil leaking out, that's fine, because this gear oil is old and burnt and disgusting. So, there's the seal. You can see it's got that edge on it, that flange that actually overhangs the pumpkin. Now I wouldn't pull on this because you'll end up pulling the bearing and stuff out of there. I mean, you could pull it, check the bearing, but I don't know. Rarely do you see a pinion bearing go bad. You know, you could just visually inspect it. If it looks like it's all broken, obviously you got some issues, but typically you don't need to touch it. But you want to clean up all this grunge that's around here. You're going to want to clean it out of, like if any falls in there, you want to make sure you scrape it all out of there. You don't want any of this dirt or any of this crap inside. Okay, I've got the new seal. I ran down to the parts store, got a new seal. It's the same as the old one. Looks slightly different, but it'll do the same thing. I always like to put a little bit of RTV around the edge here. It just sort of keeps anything from sort of leaking past the outside edge of the seal where it goes in the housing. And then you always want to run some grease, or you can use Vaseline or anything, oil even, that will lubricate that inner ring so that when you put the yoke back in, it doesn't matter if the yoke's sitting against it dry. The problem is that when the drive shaft starts spinning, it will wreck the new rubber seals. Yeah, so just put it up here, try this again. And now we've got a socket. This is like a hub socket for a Dodge or a Ford, but it's pretty close to the right size. Just want to try and hit it squarely that it'll go in. And I'm just hitting it on the outside edge, right? That it's not going to damage the inner part. You just want that nice and tight against the housing there, so it is now. And then we'll get the yoke and slide it back in and torque the nut back down with the impact. Now I was trying to find a better yoke to put up here, but like one that doesn't have a little groove in the end. But the problem being is that everything that I've got is 1957, which apparently is different. 58 uses those little straps, and 57 uses U-bolts. Little U-bolts through the back, or they go through the front, and then you put nuts on the back. So I'm just going to have to go back to using his, and hopefully it doesn't have any issues. And I don't know if there's a torque for this. There might be. I always just basically hit it with the impact till it's tight. You don't want to crush the pinion down too hard. Basically just do till it's tight and give it one more little squeeze. And then you put your drive shaft back in. And you put your caps back on and tighten them down. And make sure they got lock washers. I'm going to make sure I add a couple lock washers to these and so they don't back out of there. Okay, so I got the brakes all bled. So I'm sure it sounds simple to a lot of you, but if you didn't know, you always want to bleed the rears first, and you start with the passenger side because that is the line, that is the wheel cylinder that is furthest from where the T is. So you want to get all the air out of the passenger side first, then you move on to the driver's side. And you know, you pump the brakes, hold the pedal. I usually pump it initially if there's just all air in the lines. I'll probably pump it like 10 times, work a bunch of fluid down here. I just quickly crack the bleeder, shoot the air out, and repeat that process. Always start with the rear passenger side, then do the driver's side. Then come up to the front, do the same thing, do the front passenger side, right here. and then do the front driver's side. Now the only difference with these brakes is because these are dual wheel cylinders on the front, only on the front. You have to start with the bottom wheel cylinder. And it says that in the service manual too, but if you don't have a service manual, you want to start with that one, because that way you pump all the air down to the bottom and you fill up that wheel cylinder with fluid. Then you can work your way to the top. So yeah, and then same with the driver's side. So yeah, these are all done. These are bled, and the pedal's nice and firm now. I'm still going to adjust the shoes themselves, and how you do that on these is they've got that there's sort of a bolt right there. You can see that. Oops, sorry, my light's in the way. That bolt right there, that's actually goes straight through to a little cam that's in the brake shoe assembly. And that little cam, when you turn it left or turn it right, that pushes the shoes out or pulls them in. So you want to push them out. What I typically do is jack this up so the wheel spins freely with your hand. And then you want to adjust that cam until the wheel basically, you know, sometimes it'll just stop the tire because it's the brake is all the way out. And then you just back it off just a hair, and you just want to hear it rubbing as you spin it. You don't want it to be like extreme drag, but you just want to hear it sort of skimming along the edge of the brake shoe. So, and then when you do that, what that also does is that adjusts your brake pedal in the car. So if your brake pedal goes like almost down all the way to the floor and your brakes are all bled and you're happy with them, that is because the shoes are too far in. I know that might sound really simple to some of you guys, and some of you guys might be going, oh, that makes sense, thanks for that. Alright, well I got the driver's side muffler in, so that's what I was going for. These oval shaped ones, the exhaust can actually come up and then turn and go back and then turn, and then it leaves on the other side. That's actually going to quiet this down a lot. These old glass packs, I don't know if you guys know what they look like inside. If you've ever looked in them, here, you can see. You see there, the light on the other side? They just go straight through. There's no, they don't do anything. They just, the sound, you know, the exhaust kind of rattles around in there. And that's where you get that sound, you know, just the old redneck sort of horrible. No offense if you have them. I've had them before. You know, they're like $30 each, and they're cheap, and guys throw them on and think they sound good. I thought they sounded cool when I was like 16. Well, they get old. So these should quiet it down a lot. Now the only thing is his tailpipe actually kinked on the driver's side going over the axle. And to get one made up, you know, I don't know. He's got these huge tips on the back, these big MagnaFlow tips. They're all bottomed out on the bottom here. I just did a downturn here, and even like a full tailpipe would quiet this down even more. But we'll try it with the turn down for now and see where that gets us. Okay, both those mufflers are in, clamped down. Both of them just have turn downs. Got rid of those big pipes sticking out the back. I think it'll clean it up a lot when the car's down on the ground. You won't see that. Okay, I'm just gonna drop the pan here, drain the transmission. The nice thing with these cars is you see that tube going in the side of the pan right there. That's the filler tube, and there's actually a threaded nut on the end, sort of like a brake flare, like a tube nut, and you just crack that nut loose, pull the filler tube out, and you can drain, you know, like half the pan before you drop it. There's no drain plug on it, right? Typical Chrysler, there's no drain plug, you just have to drop the pan. But check out just how grimy this transmission is. I can't believe it's just covered. The whole thing is just covered in oil, like old oil that's been leaking for years, I guess. The young guy was telling me that it felt like it was slipping up really bad. Well, probably because it's got no fluid. It's just puking out of there. So I'm going to try and scrape a lot of this off so at least you can sort of see what you got. Here's the little drum. That's actually the parking brake. Yeah, these earlier cars, it's around just at the end of the tail shaft. A little drum brake in there that expands out when you pull on the lever. Alright, I got the pan dropped here. So, like I was saying, there is no filter that you change. It's just a screen. So this here is the screen. The pan itself is fine. You know, just been cleaning it up. But if you look, I don't know if you guys can see this on this rag here. If you can see that it's sparkly, I've been just spraying brake clean in here and wiping it up, and it is covered in tiny little metal shavings. So, and there's all kinds of debris down in the bottom. Basically, everything just looked like this. Like it was just covered in grime, but tons and tons of little metal shavings. So, he did say the transmission seemed to slip quite a bit. Now the fluid is really old and burnt. Okay, I took the filter screen out of the transmission. There's a little bit of junk sort of trapped on the edge there, and you can see some of the material here on the filter, right? Like it's just some sludgy, almost like clutch material. And then I just cleaned up the edge of the pan here. It was just super grimy, so some brake clean and a wire brush and just sort of scrape it down. So I'll just spray this out with brake clean, clean it up. Okay, and so service manuals, I've only got one for a 57 Dodge and a 58 Plymouth. I don't have a 59 Dodge. But when you look at the pictures of the transmission, that 59 Dodge Torque Flight, the kickdown lower reverse adjustment is not inside the pan. It's actually on the outside. So there's one on the right side and one on the left. The later transmissions, like 62 and up, the Torque Flights that everybody knows about, the aluminum cased ones, that kickdown adjustment is actually inside the oil pan. So, but this one, it'll be the same. So 58 will be the same as 59. So the low reverse, all you do is loosen the lock nut, you tighten down the main screw to 70 to 75 inch-pounds. I usually do 72. And then you loosen it 2 5/8 turns. What a weird number. And then the kick down, you loosen it 3.5 turns. So I can't really get the camera up there just because of the way it's on the side of the transmission. Like I can right now, but I won't be able to when I'm actually doing the work. But there, I don't know if you guys can see that. Up here is the item you need to find, and it's usually covered in grime, so you got to scrape it off. I used a wire brush, but there's a lock nut on here that you can turn. I just loosened it. You loosen that lock nut, and then you tighten down. I usually just almost take it all the way off, just because by the time you tighten this in, it kind of bottoms out. But you tighten this in all the way until I usually use a torque wrench on the little tiny 1/4 inch one on inch-pounds. And 72 inch-pounds, when it clicks, you stop. And then I usually mark the end with a Sharpie just on one end. And then that way you know when you've turned it a full turn, because the Sharpie mark will come back around to where you started. So I usually go 1/4 at a time, so 1/4, half, 3/4, one turn. And you back it out. That one is 2 5/8 turns. And then there's one on this side. I don't know if you can see it up there. Just above the where the cables go in. That's the other one. So that's the second third. And that one is the same thing, except it's 3.5 turns. So I can't really show it. Like I said, it's hard to get the camera set up in there and stuff. But if you guys watch I did it on the 62 Belvedere. I did a kickdown adjustment, and it's pretty detailed. Okay, I've just been picking away at a bunch of little things. One of them is the young guy dropped off a taillight. So I guess this upper taillight was missing. I don't know if he broke it. I'm not sure what happened. This showed up. Beautiful shape too. Look at the originals, are all faded and old from being out in the sun. I don't know if this is a repop or just a really nice new old stock piece. I'm not sure, but I mean, for what he paid, it's a great looking taillight. But I just put oil in it. I did an oil change earlier. I've got the new Wix oil filter down there. Now the alternator, this was that GM one wire, I guess. Actually, it wasn't a one wire. There was 2 wires, so I don't know what the heck it was. It was something else, but it was a GM thing. It wasn't working, and the wiring was pretty hokey. So I just ran. This is a 1970 and up Chrysler dual field alternator. Dual field because it has 2 field wires, and then the charge wire. So charge wire, 2 field wires. I've got a whole bunch of them upstairs, and I just ran it over to the 1970 and up Chrysler electronic voltage regulator. So these are, I've never had the problems with these. These are really good. They're basically just a switch. They switch it on and off, tell the alternator to charge, not charge, or you know, allow the voltage to go through. So I just ran the wiring. I always tape my wiring with electrical tape. I'll just wrap it around. I don't love the look of like the wire loom stuff, that black wire loom. I think it just looks hokey. Yeah, what else? Oh, the dipstick. His dipstick was broken at the bottom. So right where it said full, it was broken off from there. So I don't know if the chunk is laying in the oil pan. I don't really want to drop the pan. But I had a bunch of dipsticks, so I gave him one that is still good. Okay, I'm just about wrapped up here. I had to change the master cylinder. So there's a brand new one. The one I put in, it was used. I knew it was used, but it was working when we took it out. We took it out because we changed to a disc brake master cylinder. That being said, I probably shouldn't have even put it in because it leaked. So I'm not charging the guy for the time it took to change it, but kind of a pain regardless having to change it out. The charging system, I swapped the voltage regulator. It's working now. And I'm just about to fire it up and back it out of the shop here for the first time. And then we can get a real good look at it outside with those new leaf springs and everything. But inside here, I got the headlights working. It was the dimmer switch. I got the light in here still. So it was a bad dimmer switch, so I changed that out. And under here on the brake pedal, if you guys can see that little tab there, all I've done is I put in a I should say mid-60s brake light switch here. And I just welded a tab to the brake pedal so that when you push the brake pedal, that little tab comes back and pushes on the lever. You can see the spring moving there on the, you can see the switch moving. So kind of whatever, not the most exciting thing, but I think these came originally with obviously a single master cylinder, and they probably had a brake light switch on the master cylinder. Okay, well there it is. It's running pretty good. It's got a little bit of a mist, but it seems to do when it's cold. Once it warms up, it goes away. But look at the stance now. Not drooping in the back. Tons of space between the quarter lip and the wheel there. It seems to be blowing a little bit of blue, but it might just be because it's choked right now. The brakes work good. The pedal's a little spongy. I've got the shoes adjusted as far as they will go safely. The only thing is the front driver's just locked up when I went to go forwards, so I'm going to back off the shoes a little bit, which unfortunately is just going to lose a bit of our brake pedal. I might have to pull it apart. Yeah, stupid drum setup. Yeah, so get that young guy to come and get his car soon here, and I can start picking away at the next project. Okay, so I had the issue with the brakes locking up, so I pulled the front drum off this morning, and what I've got is, looks like, if you guys can see this one here, see it's way out? This one here is way in. These are the adjusters, so when you spin the bolt that's on the back of this, it's on the backing plate, you spin it, that moves this spring or this arm in and out. But this one is way too far out. So what I've got, I disassembled another backing plate I had. Here's the one I've got. You can see how both those little wings are way in. Okay, just going to take this down the street. It doesn't have any insurance on it, and I don't even have plates on it, but we're just going to go down the side street I use sometimes just for testing purposes. And yeah, I just want to make sure the brakes don't lock up. Well, hopefully they don't lock up, otherwise I'll be stuck out there. But I want to make sure they actually work properly. I mean, yard testing is one thing, but this guy wants to come and drive it all the way back 2 hours north to Campbell River, so I'm not going to take it on the highway, but it'd be nice to at least just make sure that this thing's the brakes are gonna work and release for him. So let's hope. It fires up quickly now. That's good. Goes into gear right away. No issues there. And the brakes work if you're not hammering on them. Like if you just ease into them, they're fine. It's just if you got a panic stop or you push down on them too hard, they don't seem to release very well. Let's see how they do here. Yeah, you can hear there's a booster leak too. That booster, I don't know. That thing is not happy. But I mean, they stopped the car and well, kind of. Yeah, the booster leaks, that's the problem. I think the master cylinder's fine. I think that booster leaks and then it just allows the car to sort of travel a little bit. I did warn him, I said, if you're gonna keep this thing, I would invest in some disc brakes myself if I was keeping this car. See if it shifts. Oh, someone driving behind me and I got no I got no plates. Oh well. That shifted in a second, that's a good sign. Speedometer works, that's cool. His bar is green. Mine on the 57 is orange. Yeah, I mean they work, but they're not the most exciting thing. I feel like these poor people, I always turn around in their driveway. They're probably wondering who the heck I am all the time. Goes into reverse fine. It's push button, just like my 57. Yeah, I think it's fine. I'll give it back to him. Takes a little while to shift, but maybe that's a kick down adjustment needed. It's also cold. Temp gauge is pegged for some reason. Fuel gauge doesn't work. Oil pressure is good. It's probably a little, just a hose coming to the gauge. Probably pretty accurate. And I did verify it is charging, so just went back to some Chrysler parts. Alright guys, I'm going to wrap this up. This one, I'm not going to lie, was a pain. It just sat so long neglected, and unfortunately, as you guys saw, everything was worn out. Brakes, complete brake system, brake lines, fuel system, ignition system, charging system, electrical, the leaf springs were bad. The list goes on and on and on. So So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and you saw at least learned something. Maybe the pinion seal or the leaf springs or the brakes on these old Chryslers, these old Dodges. So neat car, really neat car, but I'm not going to be sad to see it go. This one kind of, man, this was like, okay, I'm getting tired of tired of working on this. So hopefully the young guy appreciates everything I did, and we will move on to the next one. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. I appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.